So much.
Hi, good morning, everybody. My goodness, it's so lovely to be back here. Hi, Roselle. Nice to see you. It's been many, many years since I've been back here at Unity of Central Massachusetts. I love your new digs. It's an awesome place to be. And what a great music selection for right before my talk. I think it was Albert Einstein that once said, there's two ways to live your life. One is if everything is a miracle, and the other is if nothing is. And I'm of the mind that let's live our lives as if everything is a miracle. So, what does it mean to live in the domain of miracles? Is there such a thing as living in the domain of miracles? And that's one of the key elements of our faith, really, the 12 powers. And one of the powers that you see up there is the power of imagination. And the spiritual power of imagination, I think, is probably the entryway, the door. Your ability to use your imagination consciously is your ability to create miracles. There's one of the things that Charles Fillmore talked about a lot and taught us in the 12 powers was the spiritual power of imagination. But he had a contemporary spiritual teacher. I don't think they ever collaborated with one another. His name was Neville Goddard. Do you guys know Neville Goddard's work? Worth reading for sure. He was a contemporary of Charles Fillmore. And he said that imagination is God in action. Putting your imagination to conscious use rather, you're always using your imagination, whether you're imagining what horrible things might come, your worries, your anxieties, your fears, that's imagination. The storm that's coming our way, some of the horrible things that we're hearing on the news, the political things that are happening in our country, when you're spending your time thinking about those things, that's using your imagination. And Neville Goddard said, imagination is God in action. So I talk about consciously using your imagination to think about the blessings and the good things that you want to bring in your life. That's really what we're here to do, is to catch that divine idea from God and bring it into fruition. We are, I like to say, make your life a living prayer. Our song earlier that Carla did is exactly about that. How we make our lives a living prayer. So I'm always pushing the edges and reaching out and seeing what else I can do. And oh gosh, this September, I decided before that, but I started a project in September that, let's just say, is one that tested my faith. I decided that I was going to tear down my great aunt and uncle's cottage and build a new house. What a great idea. And I decided I would be the general contractor. My spouse and I would GC it. We would be the general contractors. And, oh, by the way, the house is 7.5 hours away from here. And just for fun, I thought, why not throw in one more thing? I have Amish builders, Amish carpenters. So I can't call them. I can't text them. I can't send them a fax with a new idea. So this is the project that I decided to take on. And if any of you have ever taken on a big project, you know that it's not exactly like, let's just dance along through this. Every big project that we take on is really a crash course in patience and faith and resilience and letting go of control. It's basically telling the universe, yes, go ahead, send me every opportunity to test my faith. Because, but I took this on, something that I've wanted to do for years. It's been in my vision book for many years. It's on the St. Lawrence River in the Thousand Islands of upstate New York. It's my hometown. It was my great aunt and uncle's cottage. And I took that on because I really believe that we're here to live our unity faith. And I love the fifth unity principle. It is not enough to know the truth. You must demonstrate truth principle in your life, in how you live your life. Not how you live your life in your head, but actually how you are living your life. So I started this process. It's, we've been in the planning process and the design process, and our teardown of my great aunt and uncle's cottage was scheduled for September 11th. So somewhere, June, July, I think July, I was like, I need to have the power lines taken off the house so that the teardown can come. I'd better call the electric company. You all know how that goes, right? So I started calling the electric company in July. I called them like once, maybe twice in July. And then it's August. And I'm like, I still haven't heard back from the electric company. I need an appointment. I need somebody to come down here and take off these wires. So I started calling more, a little bit more steadfastly in August. I was calling them weekly. And then by the end of August, I'm calling them 2-3 times a week. No answer. So now we're getting into early September. Notice my teardown day. And I have a whole crew coming in with big equipment to tear down this house. It is now the beginning of September. Nothing. So I think it was right around the week before. Yeah, it was like a week before we were supposed to tear down on September 11th. And I said to my spouse, like, I don't think we're going to be able to do this. We can't tear down the house if the power lines are still on. I don't think we're going to be able to do this. And then I heard myself. I was like, that is not how I roll. We have the opportunity through our faith to practice the spiritual power of imagination, to practice our spiritual powers of love and wisdom and strength and faith. And I was like, that's not how I roll. Of course we're going to tear down. So I started using the spiritual power of imagination, seeing it working. September 9th, nothing. September 10th, nothing. So I called the building crew. I was like, hey, I don't have those power lines off yet. He's like, well, that's all right. We're gonna go out tomorrow anyway. Let's see what we can do. So I am literally driving to upstate New York on the 10th, and I was like, I got to get this handled. And I'm feeling a little stressed. There, like, still no callback. Nothing has happened. And I said, I've got a choice. I'm either going to feel this stress, feel this angst, feel this burden, or I'm going to release and let it go. And I decided right there in that moment, as I'm driving my sweet little BMW down I-90 towards New York, I am not going to stress over this. This is going to work out. I don't know how, but this is going to work out. And I let it go. And I'm driving down I-90. And I thought, I should call my handyman and see if he knows somebody. So I call my handyman on a whim. I'm like, Phil, I got this problem with National Grid. Yeah, that's a problem. And he's like, I know a guy. Isn't that how all problems get solved? I know a guy. I don't know if he can do anything or not, but let me give him a call. So 15 minutes later, I get a call back from this guy. Hi, I'm Justin. Phil called me. I don't know if I can do anything. I'm like, no, Justin, you're my guy. You're my guy. He was the field supervisor for the area. So he's like, well, I have to call into Central and make sure they approve it. I was like, no, it's going to get approved. It's all good. So I get a call back from Central, the lady at Central. She, well, I don't know if I can do anything. Nope, you're my girl. You're going to get this handled. And I got the call back in another 15 minutes from Justin, the guy who was taking his crew out. The wires were off by noon. And I promise you, if I would have gotten, like, I had that moment, right, of like, it's not going to happen, it's not going to happen, it's not going to happen. And then I saw myself. Who is that? I know better than that. You ever have that moment where you like catch yourself, right? So I was like, no, I made a decision. It's not going to go that way. 3 months of calling National Grid, 3 months of trying to get in touch with them, 3 months of trying to make things happen. Less than an hour of deciding that I wasn't going to stress, using the spiritual power of imagination, and they were off. I'm just so grateful for that. And I learned a lesson. Actually, I wish Charles Fillmore was still alive, because these beautiful 12 powers, I think there's one that he missed. Let me tell you what it is. The spiritual power of perception. The spiritual power of perception. How you perceive a thing determines how you relate to the thing. When I was perceiving this, like, this isn't going to get done. I might not be able to do the teardown. What am I going to do? When I was holding that perception, do you know what the outcome would have been? Wouldn't have happened. It wouldn't have happened. So using your power of perception, making a conscious choice, I'm not going to stress over this. This is going to be fun. I'm going to have a great time with this, right? So fast forward, the house came down. I got to like drive the little big thing that has the claw on the front. I took down the last wall. It was like so cool. I've got a little video of myself. That thing's hard to drive. Super fun. So the house is down, and the crew was coming back to dig the hole for the foundation. They're bringing back all of their they had dug the hole for the excavation. And my Amish builders and the designer were coming to survey the plot and decide, exactly where the house has to sit. So my Amish guy is there, the horse and buggy are there, my 82-year-old designer was there, and we're all, they've got all their equipment out and they're looking, and there's this big hole, where the house used to be. And I'm so excited. This has been a literally 20-year vision of mine to do this thing. And they're looking at it, and they're using their equipment, and then walking over this way, and they're looking at the river, and they're talking to each other. And I'm thinking, this doesn't look so good. And I reminded myself that I had decided in advance I wasn't going to stress over this. So I walked up to them and I was like, guys, what's going on? And they kind of looked at each other and just, kicked the dirt and looked at me. The hole is 10 feet too close to the river. It has to go back 10 feet. Environmental things, where new construction can be, how close to the river. It has to be 30-foot easement back from the river. It was 22 feet back. It has to go back. And I'm thinking, I just paid thousands of dollars for this excavation crew to come in. My mind, I'm seeing dollar signs in my head. My breathing is getting shallow. So I look at my designer and I was like, John, can you call them and tell them that they've got to come back? He's like, I'm not going to call them. I'm like, okay, all right. And then I reminded myself, I'm not going to stress over this. This is going to be fun. So I call the guy up who owns the excavation company, and it's very rural upstate New York, and people actually answer the telephone. So I call up the guy. It's like, Josh, hey, how you doing? Are you guys done? Thinking like, maybe they're not done yet and they have to come back anyway. Josh, looks great. And, everybody's here and they're doing the measurements. Are you guys done? Yeah, Jackie, we're all done. Crap. It's like, take a breath, see it in my mind's eye, see it going well. And I was like, well, he's like, is there a problem? I was like, yeah, it's 10 feet too close to the river. I need it set back 10 more feet. And he paused for a moment and, I could feel my stomach and then breathe, relax. He's like, yeah, no problem. I can get out there Thursday afternoon. We'll fix it for you. Yes. So instead of my mind racing, instead of it going poorly, I walked away knowing that when you engage the spiritual power of perception and you engage the spiritual power of imagination and you move forward with the spiritual power of faith rather than being run by your ego and given by fear, things have a way of turning out. I use this methodology that I teach in a lot of my courses, and it's called the 3 C's method. And I want to teach it to you because it's really, I feel like it's really central to your capacity to practice the spiritual power of perception, to change your perception. In the Course of Miracles, they say a miracle is just a change in perception. So I want to teach it to you. The 3 C's. The first C, when you're perceiving something in a way that you don't want to perceive it, what do you have to do first? Catch it. The first C is catch it. You got to see yourself doing this thing, having this thought, having this fear being lived by the ego rather than by your higher sense of self. So the first thing is you catch it. I was like, oh, there I was saying, I don't know if we're going to be able to tear down. John, you call the guy. I don't want to call him. Being lived by fear, right? Catch it. And the next C is you've got to challenge your own perception. Debunk it. Talk back to yourself. Is that how you want to roll? Is that the experience that you want to create? Is that how you want this thing to go? Is that your highest and best? Is that what you believe? And it's like, no. And then the third C, change it. What is your highest and best? How do you want this to go? What future do you want to experience? How do you want to create this experience? So throughout this process, and still, the house is up, the heat is on, the roof is on, the windows are in, we're making progress, spray foam goes in this week. Deciding in advance how you want something to go. Neil Donald Walsh says, life proceeds from your intention for it. Life proceeds from your intention for it. The only problem is too often we either don't have an intention or our intention is filled with fear. So there's 3 movements of demonstrating this truth that I want to leave you with today. And it's 3 E's. I like alliteration, makes it easy for you to remember. The first thing that these stories demonstrate is our ability to embrace our knowing, embrace our spiritual truths, embrace the spiritual powers. So it's embrace, embody, and expand. Put that in your head. Embrace, embody, and expand. So embrace it means live the truth that you know. Fifth unity principle. It's not enough to know the truth. You must demonstrate truth principle in your life. Embrace that truth. Embrace that being lived by faith is more powerful than being lived by fear. Embrace that you are here to be your God self, not your egoic self. Embrace that knowing. Live your faith. The second one is embody. Embody the truth that you know. Charles Fillmore says that faith is the perceiving power of mind linked with the power to shape substance. You follow that? It's a little bit heady. Faith is the perceiving power of mind, the spiritual power of perception, right? Faith is the perceiving power of mind linked with the power to shape substance. What does it mean to shape substance? It means that the whole gets moved and it doesn't cost me another 10 grand. It means that somebody knows somebody who calls somebody who has a whole crew show up to take wires off my house within 2 hours of time after 3 months of trying. That is your power to shape substance. It's getting that call of, oh, gee, will you go to Africa and lead this thing for us? Mm-hmm. That is shaping substance. You are shaping substance all the time. And you're always being lived by something. Is it faith or is it fear? That's what we're called to do. So when we embody the truth, it's not enough to just embrace the concepts like, yes, I believe. And then you turn around and you're complaining and whining that things aren't going your way. You must embody the truth so that you live your truth. You feel that sense of angst and you walk away and calm yourself. You practice the 3 C's. You know, that's what people want to see from you as a person of faith. They don't really care what you know. They care about how you respond under pressure. They care about how you respond in the face of disagreement. So embodiment is how you make your life a living prayer. And then lastly, expand. So the result of living this way is expansion. Your life will expand. Your life will get bigger. Your life will get better. If your life's not getting better, look to see where you're not embodying and embracing the truth that we know. Every practice, every demonstration, every time you sit down and write your gratitudes, every time you sit down to meditate, every time you sit down to pray, every time you offer service to your community, you are expanding your capacity to live in the domain of miracles. The domain of miracles is just a frequency and vibration. You are a frequency and vibration. The way you think, the way that you feel, the way that you speak creates an energetic vortex, a vibratory pattern, which is what I call your consciousness. Your consciousness gets created by the way you think and feel, and then that vibration goes out and meets the vibration of life. The question is, where are you meeting life's vibration? Are you meeting at the level of miracles? Or are you meeting at the level of difficulty, strife, and stress? We know too much to have our lives not be in the domain of miracles. So that's what I want to leave you with today. What is it? Embrace, embody, and expand. So let me ask you this question today. What wires do you still have hanging on your house when you need them pulled off? What holes do you have in your area that are 10 feet off and you know that you need to get things remedied? The 5th unity principle is the answer. The question is, when your wires are hanging and you need them off or your hole needs to get moved, the question is, will you be lived by faith, the domain of miracles, or will you be lived by fear, the domain of the ego? Because the truth is powerful. And you're always living some truth that you believe. You're always living some truth. I believe in the truth that we are here to create miracles. So what truth will you live? The truth of these principles, these 12 powers, the spiritual power of imagination, the spiritual power of mastering your perception, That truth will set you free. Let's take this into some time of meditation. Let's begin this meditation now in the very same way that you began life itself, and that is simply with the breath. Take a deep cleansing breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. Allow your out breath to be longer than your in breath. Again, take a deep centering breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. And just let everything go. Any fear, any worry, any burden, let it all go. And one last breath, consciously in through the nose and out through the mouth. You are always being lived by something. You draw to you your life experiences so that you can once again determine and declare the truth of who you are. It is through your ability to embody truth principle, embrace truth principle, embody it in how you live, and expand it into the world through how you create your life. That is what brings you into the domain of miracles. And I'm going to assume that you have some area in your life right now, today, where perhaps thoughts of fear, anxiety, worry, upset, stress have entered your consciousness. We're living in some very interesting times. Times when what's been reliable, what's been assumed to be good, is being torn down around us, for the opportunity for us to renew who we are, a people of oneness, faith, peace, and harmony. So I want you to call to mind now some area of your life where the holes are 10 feet in the wrong place or the wires aren't getting moved. Some area in your life right now that you're like, man, this is not how I want it to be. This isn't going the way I want it to go. I want you to call that to mind right now and invite you to use the spiritual power of perception through this simple method called the 3 C's. Catch it. Notice that you've been being lived by some fear or angst or opinion or rightness. Maybe some anger and resignation. Notice it, catch it, call it what it is. I'm being lived by fear. I'm being lived by resignation. Catch it, and then challenge it. Is that your highest and best? Is that your God self expressing? Is that going to create the experience that you want? Is that what's your truth? And when you see the answer is no, I invite you now to simply change your perception. God is good all the time. And I demand to see the blessing. In this difficult area of my life, in this area where I'm being challenged, in this area where my faith is faltering, I demand to see the miracle. I'm going to leave you that now. Take this prayer, take this visualization, take this conversation with God into a few moments as we go into the silence. And we say, thank you, God. Thank you, God, for this opportunity to release any thought that doesn't serve us. Thank you, God, for raising our vibration in our emotions, filling us with a sense of hope, optimism, peace, and clarity, knowing that as we fulfill the truth of our lives, the truth of our faith, releasing what doesn't serve us, and stepping in to the spiritual power of imagination, the spiritual power of wisdom, the spiritual power of strength. As we practice our faith tradition, we live in the domain of miracles. And so it is.